Both starchy carbohydrates and healthy fats can be used as primary calories. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today, but a quick reminder, if you guys will please click like down below, I greatly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed or following, please do so. And if you will be kind enough to drop me a comment down below, I would greatly appreciate that also. Thank you so much. Let's get over to the topic. I bring this up sometimes, and I do get people who are like, well, you sometimes seem dogmatic. I laugh and they're like, I seem dogmatic at all. Or they'll accuse me then of flip-flopping on diet. And I'm like, no, the reason I come across as that is because I believe there's multiple approaches that work. But I don't think there are too many approaches that are ideal. And what I generally tell people, if you're shooting for overall fitness, you want muscle, you want body composition, strength, performance, health, all these things, good insulin sensitivity, your primary calories really only have a couple of true options, and it's going to tend to be healthy fats or starchy carbs. And I think we have to understand that context if we're understanding things like controlling inflammation, we're understanding things like insulin sensitivity. And I think you can do both. So even if you come over and let's say healthy fats, if a person wants to do a lower carb approach, keep in mind, I'm not talking the truly deep ketosis type approach some people are taking with low carbs with lots of meat. I'm talking about fairly low carb, meaning a lot of your sources, fat sources would be plants. You're still going to get enough carbohydrates to at least train on. Okay, and then you would be looking at taking that, taking in mostly healthy fats for your calories, your non-protein. Because guys out there, honestly, most of you aren't going to be eating more than about a gram of protein per pound of body weight. Very few people are going to benefit from that unless you're looking at protein overfeeding. So realistically, what I mean is, let's say you're a 200-pound man, with 3,200 calories, right? Let's say that's your maintenance and you're looking at 200 grams of protein. That's only 800 calories. That's only a third of your total calories. You have 2/3 of your other calories to fill in with other stuff. And so then the question becomes, do you fill it with carbs or fat? Okay. And I think both approaches can work. And I notice anytime I even try to do dairy fat on a lower carb approach, I'm on higher carbs right now, a lower carb approach, I tended to gain body fat fairly easily, even though, dairy fat doesn't always have the same negatives as other saturated fat. It's still not a healthy fat, and I tend to plump up if I'm not careful. So again, just making that note, even though it's more benign in terms of health, it's not a truly healthy fat. So here's where I'm going to go with this. So, or you could go very low fat and you could go ultra high carb. You can go extremely low fat and do very, very well in certain contexts, especially if you're trying to cut on that. Like let's say you're trying to lose as much body fat as possible while retaining muscle, but you don't care about maybe water weight, so you're not doing a lower carb approach. It totally works. So literally a chicken, brown rice, and broccoli type diet. Absolutely time proven method for getting really lean. Okay, so we need to have this context. Okay, those are your two extremes, but you could also have a middle ground. And I don't think that that's bad either. I think usually here's what I'm going to say to people. Where we usually find the two extremes are either for purposes of keeping water rate extremely low, so such as the healthy fat approach, or purely for the cutting body fat because of the extra satiety of, let's say you're getting all your calories from brown rice and sweet potatoes and keeping fat really low for purposes of satiety, all the anabolic benefits and muscle retention of the carbs. Okay, so understand that that's what you'd be looking at. For someone who's, say, maintaining, though, you could have a better mix of the two, right? If a person is trying to maintain, I think you could go with a better mix of the two and be just fine if that's their goal. Or you could do either of the two extremes, okay? They all can work in the right context for the right person with their tolerances, their preferences, their appetite, how their GI tract comfort. Okay, you have all these different approaches, and I think either extreme or a mix of the two in between can work. Okay, so what do I mean by examples? Well, I just gave an example of that approach, and that works really well because, again, you're going to have almost no capacity to regain body fat from the food you are eating because we're not storing carbohydrates as fat, at least not subcutaneously. So if a person's trying to get ripped and they're going to go into a deficit and they want the most satiety, most anabolic response, it's a very effective approach. And so we're literally talking about a bro type diet. You're talking a chicken rice, broccoli, or chicken brown rice, broccoli type diet. Not saying other stuff couldn't be worked in, but it works, and it works extremely well for those reasons. Okay, you're going to have good antioxidant profile with all of it. You're going to have good insulin sensitivity, right? You're going to have good muscle fullness, good glycogen store still, even when in a deficit. It works very, very well. Okay, your other approach would be healthier fats. And so I'm not telling people if they get a keto-ish type diet, I'm not saying all steak and eggs here necessarily, guys. I'm saying leaner animal proteins, lean cuts of steak, chicken breast, turkey breast, right? These sort of foods, fat-free dairy, like low-fat or fat-free Greek yogurts and things, stuff like this. And then you could eat lots of healthy fats. What do we mean by healthy fats? Focus on polyunsaturated, monounsaturated. Keep saturated fat low. Why? Saturated fat causes more inflammation, causes more insulin resistance. That part is not subject to debate. Let's even set aside the LDL and lipids. We don't need to go there because, having a heart attack in 20 years may not actually technically be relevant to your body composition and gains right now. Okay, and people can make a point for that. So the question becomes, what literally becomes better? The healthier fats do better. You're going to have better insulin control, better insulin sensitivity, lower inflammation. That has been found in studies. So when you look at ketogenic diet studies by people who love keto, researchers who love keto enough to research it, they like it, that's still what they find. Okay? So what do we mean? I'm not telling you to drink a bunch of seed oils, but some of those studies did find the seed oils still literally did better. Okay? We do need to be clear on that. But what do we mean? Looking at more Mediterranean type approach, say olive oil, olives. But here's the other stuff. How about avocados, natural peanut butters, walnuts? So nuts, seeds, avocados, things like that. Literally filling your calories is your staple calorie source. So why would someone do that? They improve insulin sensitivity very effectively. So again, we get a slightly more anabolic potential response from the insulinogenic effect of the little carbs they eat, the protein they eat, lower inflammation. Okay, all those healthy fats reduce inflammation on top of it, and because if we have lower inflammation, better insulin sensitivity, and then we're not getting all the carbohydrate load, we could lose water. So a person could follow that approach and have a more full, slow digesting GI tract. Have good satiety eating those type of fats because they still have fiber and stuff, while losing water weight in their GI tract. So lower water weight, lower water retention, looking leaner, even though it's through a little bit of water manipulation. Great inflammation control. So that sort of approach can work also, and it's still very anabolic because you're getting all the improved insulin sensitivity. So those are kind of the options that work, or anywhere in between.